Hello, everyone. This is another episode of InvoNews podcast, and I'm joined here with Benjamin Talin, founder and CEO of morethandigital.info. So, Ben, how are you doing today?
Great. Thanks for asking and thanks for the invitation.
So proud to have you today. Morethandigital.info, could you please tell us about your startup?
More Than Digital was actually a frustration project I started a little bit more over 4 years ago to actually just help people understand the basics of everything. I mean, I was just so frustrated with all this buzzword bingo around innovation and digital and what there is. And I started writing a blog, and this actually led now to the platform More Than Digital, which grew to the biggest digital initiative. So we had quite a journey behind us, and that was kind of like the basis for that. And now we are doing highly scalable solutions for economic development, for education, and some other stuff. So that is pretty much More Than Digital in a very short.
I mean, that's a very unique motivation to start a business, that you were frustrated rather than motivated or encouraged. But you were from a digital marketing background. What made you change that besides the frustration? What made you switch to a 9 to 5 and into the entrepreneurial space?
Actually, 9 to 5 was not really any of my things. So I had my first company with 13. So that was already an early startup with the
13.
whole entrepreneur. Yeah, with the whole entrepreneur. So back then it was just great business. I was doing IT stuff and some marketing stuff. So it was really great business, untaxed money, whatever. I can say it now. Now it's over. Now it's more than 10 years down the road. So I can say it now.
How
But
would
so back then.
you how would you say the entrepreneurial life would be as a 13-year-old?
Pretty much you don't think about anything, it's just happening. As a 13-year-old, it's kind of like, it's great money, I get like 300 euros per day instead of just 20 euros per month in allowance from the parents. So I was literally making more money in one day than I got like in a year when I was small as a kid.
I
So
believe
that was.
Yeah, I believe you must have had a huge head start rather than everyone else who've joined in their adult life. You might have learned a lot of professional things at a very early age.
Yeah, I needed to say that the learning curve wasn't that steep, to be honest, because it was just out of luck that I had such a good start there. But I also figured out, because with 19, I wanted to start the second startup, and my ego was bigger than you can imagine. I mean, I literally wouldn't fit through any barn door with my inflated ego. You know, it's kind of like male teenage person, ego bigger than whatever. And I was like, the world is not enough. And I just create the biggest startup there is. And I terribly failed the first two startups then. So that the first two I had afterwards, so the second and third actually in a row. And for me, it was a big learning back then. So actually failing stuff was way more learning curve than doing it right. And yeah, what I found out is really, it's challenging to be an entrepreneur. It's not always good life, because with 13, it was just happening to be a good business without any hassle, without marketing constraints, without anything. It was just growing. So it was just great business out of nothing. And then actually taking on the second and third startup I started was a platform business. And platforms are one of the most difficult business models you can imagine. Okay, we have ecosystems, that's kind of like one step further. But I totally underestimated what it takes to actually get things going like that. So yeah, there was a lot of learning curve there. And I fucked up afterwards some other businesses. I had some great other successes. So it's like entrepreneur world. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work.
So what your biggest challenges? Obviously, not as a kid, but recently regarding your startup More Than Digital.
Biggest challenges is always overcoming pretty much this perception of people, because it's always hard if you do things differently. People judge you according to this current status quo. So sometimes when you do it differently, it's very hard to stay focused on your own vision mission, because people tell you kind of like you are, I mean, people told me I'm not a businessman. I don't know how business works. I don't know whatever. So it always, it's kind of like a little sting every time somebody tells you that you're an idiot. And you need to figure out kind of like, are they telling you it because they don't know better, because they want you to fail, or because they simply didn't see the way you see it? So sometimes it's hard to differentiate between good advice and bad advice. And most of the times it's hard if you work against the mainstream, if you're really doing something that has never been done before, then it's harder to actually to follow through your way. I guess I need to say it like that. So that
Right.
is the single most thing. So you need to have a good filter.
It's true, right? So as you have mentioned, 2 3 failed startups, but like I've seen your interviews and speeches. You've initiated up to 11 different startups. Is that right?
Yes. That was a long journey, because after the 2 failed startups in Switzerland, so my second and third failed startup, I was like, I really have a problem that I don't know enough about coding, and I don't have the capacity for that. So what do I do? Because each and every time I had an idea, but I didn't have the capacity to actually make this idea work or to build a prototype. And it was really hard in Switzerland to get the right co-founders with the technical expertise. And so I was like, what do I do? And so I got back into my own business life and did consulting and an agency work. So I built up my own capacity, because I was selling client projects, and with the free capacity, I did my own projects. And so in this time, it was actually, that was now number 4 and 5 then. And with number 4, I bought another company. And that was my company group I was creating there. And this was actually the building stone for a lot of my crazy ideas, because I said, kind of like, now I have capacity, now let's do something with that. And that's why it was literally my own incubator in a small way. So that was the building stone for that. And afterwards, yes, More Than Digital is kind of like the number 11, if you want to say it like that. So More Than Digital is by far the biggest project I've ever imagined, and it's also a very challenging one, because it's literally this ecosystem what I want to build there. So think big. I mean, why not?
So about More Than Digital. So how did you like come up with the idea, and how big is it now? Like, how would you describe the process of growing that startup?
The process was actually pretty simple. I started with the blog. For me, it was really kind of like just sharing my information. I wanted to give everybody access to expert knowledge, but without these buzzword bingos things. And so I started off with a blog. It took me 6-7 months to figure out that I don't know everything. And then I opened up the blog, because I said, like, you from IT, from marketing, let's just do it together. And suddenly I was also being called in. Sorry, Alex. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah. So for me, it was back then really kind of like, what can I do more with that? So after the blog was big, and I was also advising a lot of governments around the world, it was also a very challenging time to actually know what should I do with it, because it was a pro bono project at the beginning, and I didn't know what to do. It just took a lot of my time, and I was like, okay, either I need to build it bigger, or I need to scale it down in a way. And so, yeah, we are speaking now about More Than Digital, so I decided to go bigger. And in the end, More Than Digital is now, yeah, the biggest digital initiative in Europe. We are the second biggest one worldwide. We help now almost 2 million executives per year to actually understand topics of the future, and we are doing quite a lot of other things. One of the bigger projects what we are soon to be launching is Insights. And Insights is really also a game changer in a way for a lot of businesses, because it gives you a tool set which usually costs around $500,000 to $1.2 million. And this tool set will be available for every company. So in a base, it will be for free. So freemium, if you want to say like that. So this is where we want to go, because I literally want to build with more than digital kind of like this neutral ecosystem where you as a company know I get information without this bullshitting, I get tools that actually help me. And we try to bridge the gap between those who didn't actually have access to this future and to those who are lagging behind. So that is literally our big vision and mission statement around Be the Change. That's their own, it's actually an own NPO now. Our vision and mission statement got to be an own NPO.
And NPO, right? So more or less, the initiative behind More Than Digital was you trying to bring some sort of a change into the space of digital marketing. How has that impacted your life, as in bringing that startup into the space? How would you find yourself as the founder, living as that entrepreneurial challenger?
It's a difficult life because you literally give up everything you have to actually do that. And I admit it, it's all my savings, it's all my time, it's everything I worked for, because literally I gave up a good agency, I gave up a good consultancy to actually focus on More Than Digital, because there was also a conflict of interest there. And I didn't want to have this conflict of interest, because I said, if I want to be in a neutral space, I need to be neutral myself. Otherwise, there is no sense in doing that. And so pretty much I dedicated my life, I can really say that, I dedicated my life to More Than Digital, because it also had private implications. Working 80, 100 hours per week is normal, because still it's a platform I need to build with a very, very small team, with very small capacity, even though it grew so big. So that is literally the challenge in each and every way, because you need to deal with big problems by having then kind of like on a small scale budgets. And that is literally, when you build something like that, it takes a lot of steps, it takes a lot of sacrifices. And that's why I say it's pretty much my time, my money, everything is in there. That is More Than Digital is my life, I could say.
Right. So you believe in your initiative, the strength of the people, which is why you have expanded your startup to where it is now the biggest digital marketing business that you say, right?
A digital initiative.
Digital
Yeah.
initiative, right? So what's your opinion about outsourcing? Like, what do you believe about the strength of the people?
Definitely worthwhile. I mean, we built on a community. It's actually very great that we get also a lot of support from the community. But I mean, especially nowadays, when I was advising also a lot of people back then in my old days, I was always telling them, you cannot have for each and every aspect a person sitting there in your own company, because you will just run out of money before you even have covered all the topics. So outsourcing and sharing work, and also having the right freelancers, partners, supporters, community on hand, that is a key critical thing nowadays, because you need to cover like hundreds of different topics, and you cannot have one person being employed who covers 100 different topics. So that's why, especially also for startups, it's good to have a good network, also reliable partners, also maybe a community. If you can create a community, it can help you so much. For example, for More Than Digital, it's also a great part of our DNA that the community is part of the development of what we are doing. So that creates also a positive reinforcement in the end.
So it's not just the people behind you that support your business, but it's also the community that pushes things forward.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's like a positive feedback loop. So each and every time you do something positive, for example, now we create it, because Be the Change also means we want to do something positive. So each and every time somebody is sharing his knowledge, we also plant a tree. So each and every time somebody else does something good, we even do something good on top of it. So that is also what this positive reinforcement is. So by doing this, we also get the community more involved. We get a better understanding of the community needs, and they help us in return also to get bigger, to get more traction, to get support, and also just to have fun together. I guess that is always, you need to have fun in things you're doing.
You celebrate your successes with this business by giving back to the community through welfare, right? So how many successes have you had so far with More Than Digital, and what do you expect within the next 5 years you will achieve?
A lot of successes in the end. I mean, we created pretty much one of the leading platforms for business knowledge where everybody can access it. So that is a huge success, because many people say kind of like, that's never going to work out. You just go bankrupt and whatever. And I can say kind of like, yeah, I told you so, I made it different. So that is a success, I would say. Because each and every time you can say, I told you so, that's a success. Otherwise, we are working together very well with governments. We also had economic development programs, what we were able to test back then. Unfortunately, Corona kind of interfered there. We also launched Beta Change as an own initiative. So we also presented that, or I presented that like 1.5 years ago at the World Economic Forum. Kind of like, how can we use technology and knowledge for the best of humanity? So that is our vision mission statement as an own NPO now. And I guess also a success is that we were able to do it via bootstrapping without actually selling out our core values. I guess that's still the biggest achievement we have till now, that we could stay true to our vision mission without pretty much being sold out of. Everybody wants to have a share of that.
So your experience with talking in the international space in huge forums and multinational events, so that means you're an international keynote speaker, right?
Yes. Right now a little less, because yeah, Corona had there something to say with that.
Right.
But normally, yeah, I was doing dozens and hundreds of keynotes internationally. So
We
also
will
happened by
come.
coincidence.
We will talk about your challenges during Corona later, but regarding your international experience, what do you understand is like the biggest problem that companies face when they talk about their crisis, whether if it's companies or governments? What do you think is like the biggest problem that everyone more commonly has in common?
Very, very common problem is there is no basic understanding. So it's all about half knowledge. I know a little bit how AI works because AI is Terminator. And that is literally, you're sitting there in companies in there and you see kind of like, oh, Terminator will kill us all. And I'm like, heh, but AI is nothing better than just some Excel on steroids. So pretty much what Terminator are you imagining that Excel is going to kill you or so? So that is really a problem, that people have a lot of opinion. We always saw what technology could do in a potential hypothetical future of some futuristic science fiction. But people have a very, very limited basic understanding. So if that would change, if people would be just more kind of like having this basic knowledge, basic education on technology, it would have had a bigger impact till now, because sometimes they are fighting things because they are afraid of something that isn't true. So if you always think about the monster and in the end it's a teddy bear, you won't buy the teddy bear. So that's why the monster is always persistent, because I want to fight the monster, but it's just a teddy bear. So it might be cute, it might help you. And that is actually what digitalization and all this technology means on government level, on economics level, but also down to SMEs. So pretty much everybody is bound to this. So I guess when we really make it happen, that more people understand the basics, they also see the upsides. And that can be a big game changer.
So the biggest problem is that people don't really understand something. So it's hard to sell a teddy bear when people think it's a Terminator.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly like that. And you can argue as you want, but if they say kind of like, but it will kill me, and you're like, that is just a teddy bear. I mean,
But
it's hard
like
to work against something like that. But if they understand that it is just a teddy bear, it's stuffed with fluffy stuff, then they are like, oh yeah, okay, I gotta need a teddy bear.
right. Coming back to one of the struggles that you've mentioned during your entrepreneurial ventures, that COVID recently has been a big problem for you. So how would you describe that time for you, and how are you like coping with it now?
Yeah, big problem for me, for my keynote speaker career. Yes, for More Than Digital, it was actually good because a lot of people needed this information. So we were growing faster than ever. So in this sense, it was good. But for me as keynote speaker, I was really kind of like not traveling anymore. So after being 70% of my time around the world, traveling always in some train, plane or whatever, and suddenly sitting at home for months and just staring at the same screens, yes, I had my personal problems with that. I was literally like a confined, like a confined animal, like just walking in circles. So that was my challenge there. But otherwise, I love it that people actually now are forced to do more with digitalization. Because yeah, there are upsides. Of course, we have social problems occurring from that too. We have challenges because yeah, pretty much social is breaking apart. We have social media telling us a fake world. So some other problems occur to that.
Right. So you've described your difficulties being constrained, so that doesn't let you be the leader that you are. So what sort of factors do you think are necessary to be a leader in a time like this?
I guess it didn't really change that much. For me, I just like this personal interaction. That is what I'm missing, kind of like being at an event and just shaking hands and having a good discussion over a coffee, a beer or whatever, and just literally interacting with people, because this connection is very hard to build via video and whatever. So that is, of course, a difficulty. The channel switched, but in the end, it is now more than ever very important that you are good with communication. You need to bring a clear message over. You need to communicate very well. You need to be also a very empathic leader. So you need to take care of people a little bit more than before, because you cannot feel it. You need to ask the right questions, and you need to really care, especially when you're working with teams, etc. What is happening around them? Are they really satisfied, or is something going on behind? Because everybody is under pressure at the moment, and it's challenging for everybody, because some have personal issues, business issues, money issues. So there is always some monster behind you, if you take the metaphor again, some monster behind you chasing you. And sometimes it's a little bit more trickier via video to actually feel that. And otherwise, I guess it's really, really, really important to just bring your message over. So communication skills are key.
Um, Obviously, as a digital marketer, you are required to learn every aspect of the thing, whether if it's SEO or content writing or social media. And especially as an entrepreneur, you feel the need to that communication is key. So being that digital marketer, what do you think like is the most important social media network for digital marketers?
There is no single answer to that, to be honest. So it's always boiling down to what do you want to reach. For example, for me, business world, I want to position myself as a thought leader. I want to actually bring knowledge to the world, to executives. So for me, of course, there is LinkedIn, kind of like the most useful network you can have, but it's business oriented. So if you're on B2C, you might want to consider either TikTok for the very young, or Snapchat, TikTok for the very young. Then you have Instagram for a little older. Then you have, for the older generation, Facebook, but Facebook has also overlaps with some others. You have Pinterest for old women, pretty much that's old women network. So it's always depending on what you want to achieve. And a lot of startups are asking me that, because I also did and still do a lot of consulting for startups, also to help them position themselves. They want to be cool all the time, but they're not thinking about the customers. I mean, if my target group is like 40 plus years old, and I'm like, yeah, we make a great TikTok campaign, and I'm like, well, TikTok might not be for the 40 plus year old. So think about what you're doing. Go to Facebook, go to LinkedIn, go to whatever where your target group is. So that is really important to know who is your target audience and who is your potential customer. Then you have a great choice in the meantime. And don't forget, video is still also one of the best. Video and podcasts. I mean, we're just in podcast,
Yeah.
right?
Hence.
It's a good medium. So it's always growing faster in this field. So might also consider YouTube, for example, and podcasting platforms, of course. So there are many different ways to get your message out, but you need to be, and you ask also what is a good message and so on. You need to be authentic. There is a big problem that too many people are too pushy, kind of like, we are the greatest, we are the best, we are doing this, we are this and that, and blah, 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 blah. It's all about marketing, messaging, and just, I mean, if I would do the same here, I'm the greatest, I'm the best, you would switch off like 3 minutes after and say kind of like, what a fucking idiot. And the same happens in the business world. I mean, if you're just feeling constantly that you're being sold out and everything is kind of like just buy, then nobody will take you seriously. And that is also what startups need to learn. They need to tell a story, they need to be helpful. And if they're helpful, customers are automatically asking them to help them more. So that is a very, very interesting lesson for a lot of startups. Don't just sell out everything.
The way you described each social media and its main targeted audience is actually on point. I would really say TikTok has been the most recent one to emerge so far, and the biggest audience there has been the youngest generation, I believe. So it kind of
everything below
brings
16 is TikTok audience.
it kind of brings a lot of thought, as in if future platforms come up, for example, what will be the metaverse? It's a kind of a very abstract topic for some people. They have a very little glimpse or knowledge on the understanding of how that future would be. But as a digital marketer, we are sort of needed to pursue that thing head on to understand how we can utilize that channel to best communicate what we are trying to sell if we, as a business. So talking about the metaverse, what do you think like as a concept would marketing be in that space?
It's actually very interesting. I just wrote like 2 days ago an article about the metaverse, and for me it was really, I wanted to dive a little deeper into that whole thing, because still it's very vague. We don't really have a very clear definition of what it is or what it is not. So in the end, it's a lot of different technologies being pushed together. So the basic concept is we create an alternative world within we can create another world. So this is pretty much, so you have your identity. This identity is true for a lot of different virtual worlds. Within these virtual worlds, you can create not just your own identity, but also your own data stream. So that means that we even have a little bit more to track from a user and a little bit more user interaction. And as we want to live in a virtual world, we don't want to be bullshitted all the time. I mean, just imagine going into, I don't know, going into the cinema and literally everything is just advertisement and you don't even see the movie because of advertising. So it will be a little bit more personalized, a little bit more into, we understand your need, and for that need, we can offer you the best option. So it's more intention based in the end. We also have this virtual world in which we can market it. So we see that now, for example, happening in brands, that they create brand worlds. So it can be even possible to have within this universe another universe, which is kind of like the Gucci universe. And then you're just walking around in the Gucci universe, and that is a brand by itself. So it's also the gamification part, the gamification of marketing, the gamification, the interaction with the brand itself. So there will be a lot of different methods how to implement yourself the best way. And there are a lot of different opportunities, of course. I mean, instead of just doing some banner ads, you would create maybe a house within this world, which is then the Gucci house. And you also need to think like, how can you give somebody more experience with your brand? So it's not about just displaying some picture and 50% discount. It's rather than just bringing the customer something that he really feels connected to you, because then he wouldn't bother about the price, but he likes the way the Gucci world looks. That's why I buy this Gucci bag, because I have seen this Gucci bag in the Gucci world. So this is literally the future of that, because we need to think not just like in Internet 1 and 2. that we are pushing out the message. We need to think more like Metaverse is literally the customer living in this world. And you need to act like they are living your world. And then we have the marketing challenges.
It's kind of a mind-blowing concept. The more you think about it, you get more
It
and
is.
more personal with the customer than you have been before. I believe like back in time, people would have been door-to-door salesmen, so people wouldn't even open the door for you.
Yeah, exactly. In the metaverse, you are living in their home. I mean, just imagine you're not having your home and you need to knock on the door. It's actually your home is they need to knock on their own door.
Right. So as a digital marketer, you must be a reader as well.
Yes, I mean, that is one of the key concepts, right? At the moment, it's thought leadership, and we hear a lot of this leadership bullshit, trap, and whatever. I mean, there are thousands of words out there. I mean, marketing is about trust. In the end, what are you doing? I mean, for example, 2 years ago, Google built this brand before content concept that actually the authority is important. And what do you want to do in marketing? You want to build the trust. You want to be an authoritative resource. So if somebody has a question and they say kind of like, I know they're a person, then you do it right, because then you have the authority and the trust of the people. So that's why being marketer is always kind of associated with being a trusted person in this space. So the better you can position your brand and yourself or the team or everybody around you and also your partners to be a trusted resource, the better it is. I mean, just look at Microsoft. They're giving the Microsoft partner status to other companies. So they're saying, okay, we are Microsoft, you trust us. We literally know every porn out there, what you're looking at, because you have your Windows computer. So you trust us. That must be a good trust. And so you trust our Microsoft partners. And that is pretty much how you build this up. And you can also leverage that with other people. And this trust building is really key today. That's why I say, if you just constantly sell, nobody trusts you, because then he just thinks kind of like, he just wants to sell me another thing.
That's been great. That's been great. So what's your favorite book so far? What are you currently reading?
Currently reading. I don't read books. That was a challenging question, because I don't read books. I read a lot of news. I read a lot of articles, and currently I am reading about green economy and impact assessment. So that is pretty much a very, very dry topic, you know.
Okay, this is sort of intriguing, but if you're not a reader, you must be a watcher, I believe.
A watcher. Yes, I watch a lot.
Right. So like what, podcasts?
Podcasts. I love this Blinkist. How is it called? This
Yeah, the Blinkist. Yeah.
Blinkist, which is summing up the books. That is awesome for me. And I watch a lot of scientific journal stuff. So also Seeker is great. This channel, I love this channel because it's always having kind of like 15 minutes of compressed knowledge. That is my world.
Thank you so much, Benjamin Talin, for your time. It's been great learning more about you and your startup, and we wish you all the success. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. We'll see you next time.
Thank you too for the invitation. Take care. Bye.
Right. Thank you so much, Ben, again, for your time. We'll love you to have you again. I'm the social media marketer. So my manager would love to talk to you again sometime, as he is a digital marketing guru himself. So we'd love to invite you for future episodes.
Yeah, sure. Just reach out. More than happy. Always sharing. I mean, that's more than digital, right? Sharing knowledge.
Thank you so much for your time. Take care of yourself, man. Bye.
Also, take care. Have a nice day. Bye.